Hey everybody, and welcome back. Come join me as we take a trip to Sigua Falls. One of the most difficult parts of hiking this trail is actually just finding the trailhead. Unfortunately, a lot of the trails on Guam are not well marked and are not well maintained, and this is one of them. There's no sign to indicate where this trailhead starts, and so actually it's pretty easy to find though. The easiest way to find it on the map is to find the Leo Palace and drive right up to the entrance. So you can see right here in the background is the entrance to the Leo Palace, and the trailhead is right here on the right side of the road as you approach this resort. As mentioned, there's no sign, and so this is what it's going to look like, and there are actually several trailheads that look just like this, but most of them end up in the same place. And so this is what you're looking for, red dirt leading off to the right side of the road. So another question a lot of people are going to have is, where do I park my car? There's not a designated parking area, so you're going to want to park your car just right on the side of the road. That's where everybody parks, and anyone who comes here bringing bikes or four-wheelers or whatever parks right there. And you're going to want to make sure that there's not anything valuable in your car, obviously, because your car is pretty exposed. I've heard stories about break-ins here, but I've never experienced one myself, and I've been on quite a few trails, so your car is going to be pretty safe. Just make sure you don't have anything out in the windows of value. One of the reasons I love this hike so much is because of the variety that it gives you. So there's a lot of area on the tops and the sides of the hills just like this, sun-exposed, awesome views of the river valley. We're also going to have an opportunity to walk down into a lot of those river valleys, see some of the flowing water, the natural springs. At the end, there's a steep, narrow descent, rope climb to get down to the ultimate destination, which is the waterfall. And it's one of the great examples on Guam of a natural waterfall. So behind me you can see some of those fantastic mountains, and that's actually where we're headed on this hike. The waterfall sits down in between those. Now let's ask, what are you going to want to take on a hike like this? As we mentioned, it's about 6 miles all the way, or 6 miles total, 3 out, 3 back. You're definitely going to want some water. You're going to get dehydrated. It's hot on Guam, especially if you're coming at a time like this. It's May the 7th today, and it's probably 90 degrees, so you're definitely going to want some water with you. You're also going to want to bring some sunscreen because there's a lot of exposed trail, just like we're on right now, and I'd say that probably makes up 70-75% of the total trail. It also wouldn't hurt to bring some snacks. You're definitely going to appreciate them when you finally get to the waterfall and you get some time to cool off, relax, and refresh for the trip back. You will pass the Leo Palace, which is right here on your left. It's a resort. You'll pass that as you're going out on the trail initially. So let's ask the question, who should come on a trail like this? Is it for children? Is it for adults? Where does it fall? So I'd say on a beginner's level, this is probably going to fall somewhere between a medium and a hard level. And the reason for that is because there are a few technical points on the trail. There's a marsh crossing depending on which route you take, and the mud in that marsh is pretty deep. I have experience in it. There's also a stream crossing where you have to cross with a rope and a log, and probably the most technical part and the most difficult part is going to be at the end. There is a descent to the waterfall itself, and you're not going to be able to carry somebody as you do this descent. It's a two-handed, demanding descent. And so if you've got children who need to be carried or aren't going to be able to make it the whole way, probably not going to be a hike for you. If you've got some pretty capable 8 to 10-year-olds though, this is going to be something that you can do and they can do, and they'll probably find to be a lot of fun. You may be wondering about this red dirt that's everywhere all over the trail. And if you're familiar with the southern United States, it may remind you of the dirt or the clay in Georgia or a place like that. It's not exactly the same. This is actually the official soil of Guam, and it gets this red color from the nutrients in the soil due to its volcanic origins. So what about footwear on a trail like this? You should expect to have wet feet by the end of this, whether they get wet in the marsh, in the river crossing, or in the waterfall where you're swimming. So keep that in mind. I would definitely not wear any kind of sandals as far as flip-flops or slides. You're going to need something with more stability. I definitely also encourage you to wear something with closed toes because there are a lot of opportunities and rocks to stub your feet on. I personally have a pair of closed-toed Chacos. This is my first pair ever, and I really love them for hiking, and I'll put a link down in the description below if you're interested. One really important thing is that you're going to want a map, whether that's the All Trails map or a map that you can get offline, or maybe you can use Google Maps on your phone. You do have cell phone reception out here, at least I do, for the entirety of the trail. And because of these forks, it's really easy to get lost. So you're definitely going to want a map, somebody who knows how to navigate, and there are some guided tours if you would rather have somebody walk you on this trail the first time rather than do it yourself and maybe end up lost. You can see the airplane flying here. It's actually going to land at Guam International Airport. There is actually a hill right here. If you've ever heard about the Korean air crash that happened on Guam, actually happened on this hill here, and there's a memorial there. That's another good hike for another time. Maybe we'll take a trip over there in another video. But also, if you're into that history, and you're into World War II history specifically, there is, and where we are headed, to the middle point of this trail, if I can get a nice zoom in here, you see that is actually a World War II Sherman tank that was abandoned on this hill after getting stuck in the mud. And so that's something that you're going to be able to see, kind of a surprise, and a lot of people don't know it's actually out here. So we're getting ready to cross the marsh, and there's a couple ways to do this. I actually don't take the trail that most people take. Reason is because it's almost impossible not to get wet. And so I'm going to actually walk off the trail here. There's kind of a side trail that's not nearly as well paved down or tramped down, but it will allow us to go over a little bridge, over a creek, and not to get wet. So here's the stream that comes out of the marsh, and rather than go through that water, someone has created a nice makeshift bridge for us so that we can go over and stay dry. So one thing to take note of and to watch out for, although it's not a serious danger, you can usually hear the vehicles from quite a distance, is that these trails are also used for four-wheeling, mountain biking. People who have four-wheel drives come out here and mess up their Jeeps and giant trucks. But just something to watch out for and to know, and this usually only applies to the initial part of the trail. Once we get to the second part of the trail, past the tank, there won't be any vehicles out there. So here we are, we have arrived at our halfway point, at least that's what we'll say, and we've come to this amazing piece of history. What's incredible about this is that this is out in the middle of nowhere. There's no signs indicating that it's here. There's no historical plaque telling you what it is. It's just a great piece of history that was left here, almost frozen in time, and now you have the ability to come out here to look at it, to touch it, to climb on it if you want to, but just to appreciate it, and a lot of people don't know it's here. So moving on from our World War II piece of history here, when approaching the tank, you're actually going to want to take a right. And this is going to lead you to an overlook of the river valley. And we need to cross down into the river valley and then over across to the other side of the hill in order to get where we're going. So we're going to dip down here, come back up the other side. There's actually a little plateau right here, and that's where we're going. I just wanted to give you a moment to take in some of these fantastic views. You can see the city off in the background, the airport, but just some really stunning views. And it's such an easy hike to get to, and yet offers such a tremendous blessing as far as the things that you get to see. So down we go into the valley. You may notice that the trail is pretty empty, and that's pretty typical, especially in the second half where it's more technical. You can see that the trail has definitely narrowed. But the only time you're really going to run into a lot of traffic out here is on a Saturday or a Sunday, weekends when things pick up, and even then it's not going to be tremendously crowded, especially on a day like today where it looks like it's threatening rain at any time. Trail is probably going to be yours for the enjoyment, and that's really why I like hiking out here so much. So as we get down here to the bottom of the trail, you can definitely tell that the wind noise has decreased, but also that it's getting more technical. And all the way down here at the bottom, we are going to find a stream. And again, this is probably one of the areas where your feet are going to get a little bit muddy. So now the hard part, as we descend back up the other side of the hill. So we've now ascended the hill, and now we're coming back down the other side. And you'll notice here a little bit more of the jungle environment of Guam. This is a part that I really think is beautiful. If you never get off the tourist areas, the main roads, you're never going to see a whole lot of this, but this is really one of the most beautiful parts of Guam, and I'd encourage you to take a hike like this, if for nothing else, just to see this. So you'll notice here we have a rope crossing, and we're going to cross this stream down here. Not going to spend a whole lot of time filming down there because, just for your reference and a good thing to keep in mind, you'll get eaten up by mosquitoes if you stay down there too long. Okay, so we made it across. I only got eaten by a few mosquitoes, and now we ascend back up the hill. So you'll notice that a lot of this trail is just ascending and descending different hills in order to get to the spot where you can finally descend to the waterfall. So the hill that I just climbed is actually the one that we zoomed in on earlier when we were across the valley. So we came across the stream, and now we've come to this plateau, and what we're going to do is walk around it, take a left, keep going. So just as a point of reference, after turning left around that hill, if we look exactly behind us, right there is the Leo Palace. And so our car is parked right over there. So we've made it a little ways. So one thing to note is that the trail is marked by these pink ribbons, but I don't want you to become dependent on those because they don't cover the whole trail. And if you're just looking for those and not navigating yourself, you're likely to get lost. So just know that they're a good indication that you're on the right track, but they're not really the best guide. Another reason I really love this soil is because of the color variation that you can find in it when you see the different layers. And I suppose this has to do with the mineral deposits that are in it, but it's actually very beautiful and almost looks rainbow-esque. So we've rounded the hill, and now we will finally have an opportunity to get our first view of the waterfall. We'll be looking down at it Already a fantastic view of the hillside. You can hear it maybe on the microphone. But there is our waterfall. This is definitely one of the more technical parts of the trail. Very narrow, high on both sides, but the view to the side is pretty spectacular. So we've made it a little ways down. We're not to the waterfall yet, but here is where the rope descent begins. And again, one of the really cool things here is that we're going to be descending down into the jungle. Well, welcome everybody to Little Sigua Falls. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit hot. It's hard to carry a tripod and a camera down a hill that you need two hands to get down with a rope. So here we are though. You'll notice there's not a tremendous amount of water coming over the waterfall, and that's because it's the dry season. So around August, the rainy season will start again. There'll be a lot more water really everywhere. So this is it. Fantastic place to go swimming. It feels so good after a long hike, and knowing that you're going to have to go back the same way and up the hill that you just descended. And I'm not going to be swimming today because I have all my camera equipment and my wallet in my pocket, and so, but bring your swimming trunks, make sure you have shoes that you don't care about getting wet, and this is a tremendous place to cool off and to spend some time. So it's definitely not the easiest hike. It's going to cost you some sweat, but in my opinion, this is one of the best hikes in all of Guam. Thanks for coming along for me, and I'll see you guys next time on A Tailored Story. Now we got to go back up the hill. We're almost there. We're almost there. I might not make it. We made it. Kind of feels good down here. Now I'm all dirty.